Hi everybody, welcome to another video. We are in the first week of May, and this week has been a big week for a lot of reasons. A lot of the summer crops moved out into the garden from the greenhouse. We also got our broilers out on pasture, which is a pretty significant move. We had been waiting and waiting for the weather to turn a little bit warmer and things to dry out a little bit so that those really young birds were a little bit more comfortable out on pasture, but the time has come. As you can see behind me, pasture is greening up really well, and things have dried out a little bit. Nighttime temperatures are far more comfortable, and so this week we moved the chicks out into their pasture pens. If you don't know, these pasture pens are how we raise all of our broilers on pasture. These pens are floorless and they get moved to new fresh grass every single day. So the chickens live in there, there's plenty of space for them, and they get fresh grass every single day when we move these pens forward. There's no floor in these pens, so they're right there on the ground. They can scratch, they can hunt, they can peck, they can eat green leafy things, and they have fresh green leafy things every single day. And yet the pen protects them from predators. We have a lot of predators out here. We're pretty far out away from anyone else, and so there's a lot of things roaming around in the night that could easily pick off these birds. Meat birds are pretty dumb and pretty slow, so they would be easy pickings, delicious pickings for any predator moving through these woods. But the pens are totally secure and the birds are comfortable and safe inside there, and along with us feeding them their ration every day, changing their water, checking on them a couple times a day, and then moving the pens forward every single day, they are living a really comfortable, well protected, very clean and healthy lifestyle out here on the pasture. And along with growing delicious, flavorful, nutritious meat for us and living a very comfortable life for themselves, they are also contributing to the landscape in a really significant way. If you've watched our videos for any amount of time, you know that these birds are one of our most profound tools for rehabilitating, reviving, and restoring land. These birds lay down a lot of chicken manure, and every day when we move their pen forward off of where they have been, what's left behind is a significant amount of manure, which is really vital for kickstarting a lot of growth in these kind of worn out fields that we're taking over and farming. So over the next several weeks, these pens will slowly scoot forward one spot every day and go all the way down this long line of grass, rehabilitating it. The next batch will line up right beside them and do another strip of the ground. And so several batches of birds over the course of the season means several strips of grass totally transformed. They start out kind of thin and sparse with a lot of weeds, pioneer species of grass and weed that are trying to restore this soil. That's what those weeds do. They go down with their roots, they mine for specific minerals, and they kind of bring a balance back to the soil that's been worn out. But these birds just kickstart that process. With their manure, they get a lot more intense, more mature plants growing and photosynthesizing and bringing energy down into the soil. So raising these birds is, great food for us and for you guys, and these birds are incredibly happy. And together, both of us working together is incredibly good for the land as well. So it's exciting to have them back on pasture doing that work again, and it's exciting to be doing that work with them. We are stewarding them, we're moving the pens, we're feeding them, we're taking care of them, and that caring, careful, managed process of supporting them and their chicken behavior and their life turns around and supports life underneath them and supports our life and your life too. So we're excited to be doing that work, and it's starting up again this year. It's fun to be here at the very beginning in the early spring when everything is just starting, and we'll keep tabs on this land over the next many weeks, and you will see how it goes from thin sparse grass to lush vegetation in just a matter of weeks, and you'll probably eat some of the chicken as well. So yeah, it's a fun process to be a part of. Back in the brooder, Sam is turning all the compost, which is great for its decomposition process, but he's also taking the time to dig the bedding out of the way, lay down chicken wire beneath the bedding, and then replace all the bedding. It's kind of a big job, but as I mentioned in previous videos, we're starting to have a little bit of a rat presence near the brooders, and we do not want chicks to be eaten by rats. So this was the last part of the brooder that is not entirely caged in. Everything else has chicken wire covering everything. So getting a layer of chicken wire underneath all the bedding is just going to ensure that tunnels can't be dug in, which we had seen some tunnels recently. So finally, the brooder will be entirely protected, and thanks to Sam, the chicks will be 100% secure. Out on pasture here, the chickens are doing really well, enjoying all the fresh, dry ground up here on this high sloping area. It's still a little wet in some of the lower areas, but they're doing a great job here, scratching out cow pies. Chickens are great on pasture for spreading their own chicken manure all over, which is high in nitrogen, but they're especially effective here in this area where we were bale grazing. You can see out there the residue from all the round bales that we fed our dairy cows throughout the winter. But as these chickens come through to this area, they just spread that residue all over. So all the hay here where there was a clump from a round bale has been spread out and scratched through, and then a layer of high nitrogen chicken poop put on top, so that this is going to have an incredible amount of fertility going into the soil. And this area was low fertility beforehand, but after this pass with the chickens, it is going to be really lush, and you'll see that by the end of the year. So you can see here the chickens hard at work, scratching, pecking slowly over the course of many days, spreading that stuff out, turning it into the surface of the soil, and just getting it ready to totally transform. And we're moving slowly through this area, but there's a bunch more space here for them to do that work. And this area is gonna just look totally different than it did last summer, where it was kind of thin and sparse and not a lot of lush green grass. Of course, it looks green in the springtime because everything looks green, and especially from this side angle, it looks like there's a lot of grass out there, but it is not the most lush area on our farm and in our pastures, but it will be pretty soon. So thanks to these birds in their mobile coop, working all day, doing what they do best, which is hunting and pecking and scratching. They live a comfortable, happy life here, and they get a lot of work done for us, and they totally restore the landscape while they do it. So it's fun to see that happening. Here in the garden, things like garlic are growing really well. Lots of small greens out there. I'll go show you some of them up close. And things in the high tunnel doing great. We planted out tomatoes at the end of last week, cucumbers. We're getting into the summer crops. We're about to start harvesting the spring crops in earnest. We've had a little bit for ourselves for the last several weeks, and we've been harvesting it for our winter CSA members who have been getting greens at the end of the winter season. But in the next week or two, in fact, CSA is starting May 24th, we will be transitioning to the summer CSA, and all of those members will be getting a lot of fresh spring greens, radishes, all kinds of delicious things, mostly coming out of those tunnels, but some out in the field here. And while they're getting the earliest spring harvests, we're busy at work getting the summer crops ready. A lot of them are in the ground or going in the ground now, and we're tending to them so that their harvest can be upcoming in about a month from now. So as you remember, we're always working several weeks ahead of what you are receiving. Spring crops we've been tending for months now, ready to be harvested. Summer crops are being tended now. They'll be harvested in about a month from now. So the garden still has a lot of spring stuff in it, but it's filling up. Probably in the next week or so, we will finish planting out, or at least prepping all of the beds in the garden. There's well over 200 beds. And so that's been an ongoing process for the last many weeks. And we're looking forward to finally having all the beds fresh, prepped, and running with a crop in the ground. And from there, it will just be growth and maintenance all season long. It's really hard to believe that this big field, which is mostly black and bare looking, is pretty soon just going to be entirely lush up to your waist or knees with crops growing and, you know, truckloads and trailer loads of food coming out of the garden every week. It's just kind of looks like an empty bare field right now, but over the course of the next several months, this is going to produce a tremendous amount of really nourishing food for all of our community. So that'll be fun to see. Once again, the miracle is getting started. As we walk along the end of the garden, you can see that some beds are planted, some are bare, some still need to be prepped, more planted beds under a tarp where there might have been a little bit too much weed pressure, more plantings of small greens. It goes on and on. We run a really complex seeding plan and bed rotation plan with all these 30-some crops going in and out of different beds at different times, and it's quite a spreadsheet that keeps track of a lot of it. But right now, all these beds are full of little things, or a lot of them are full of little things, just getting ready to take off. Unfortunately, some of these beds have crops that got hurt in the early spring weather. You can see here some small brassica plants, cabbage, kale, broccoli. Those plants really got stunned by some cold nights and didn't grow all that well. Even under row cover as they were, they're still pretty small. They should be larger like those guys there, but they're not. So some setbacks this spring as we pushed the season really far, but there's some successes. More greens on this side of the garden and tons of greens in the high tunnels. As I've said several times, some really good stands of early spring greens. This arugula is just lush, and we're really excited to be harvesting that and giving it to our members. In this high tunnel, we have a bunch of tomato plants, some planted into radishes, some planted into arugula, trying some interplanting. We'll be harvesting off that arugula and those radishes very soon here, and then the tomatoes will have all that space to grow into. But everything is looking pretty good and trellised up to the rafters, as you can see, and they'll just be climbing those strings for the rest of the season, giving us tons of tomatoes. Here we've also got a lot of little cucumber plants set out into these beds, just getting going, strings attached above. They'll be growing up tall like that little girl pretty soon. We also put in some rhubarb plants the last couple weeks, transplanted from somewhere else on the property. We're excited to see them flourish, and hopefully we'll fill up all this space with rhubarb and have that in the early springtime for people in future years. And then these tunnels, again, more greens, lots and lots and lots of greens plantings. They are just some fresh this week, some already established, some well on their way to harvest. And last but not least, the flower plot. Doesn't look like there's a lot in here right now, but there actually is quite a few little plants. And just like the other beds in the garden, pretty soon this will just be a lush, hardly able to walk through rainbow of colors. It's hard to believe when you look at it now, but it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. So that's it for this week's video. First week of May. Things have really changed. Spring is coming, green is on the trees, crops mostly looking great in the garden. A few setbacks from the early spring weather that was so cold and for so long, but overall things are looking good. We're super excited to have our layers out on pasture finally, and the broilers now on pasture as well. The cows will be going out to pasture pretty soon, and then we will just be rolling and rolling. This upcoming Tuesday is our last delivery of the CSA, the winter CSA. So you members who are part of that, who have been supporting us all winter long and getting eggs and meat and even some produce throughout the winter, thank you so much for your support. And this next Tuesday will be your last delivery for that season. But then the following Tuesday, the 24th of May, we will be starting up the summer CSA. So all you new members who have just signed up, we're almost there. We are almost ready to begin harvesting for you, and we're really looking forward to that. There will be just a lot of greens, radishes, turnips, things like that in the early shares, and they may be a little bit smaller than typical, but we will then be moving into the season as all these crops that we've been putting in the ground and putting in the ground and putting in the ground will start to come online and be all kinds of colors and flavors and textures and harvest for you guys. So it will be really exciting as we just finally get that first fresh local food. And we hope hope you enjoy it. We have been eating some greens in the last couple weeks, and it is really nice to move off of the store-bought greens and onto this fresh stuff. It's a funny phenomenon in our family that our girls, they see a lot of vegetables. They avoid the salad all winter long that we get from the grocery store. They just don't care for it. It's a struggle to get them to eat it, like most children. But as soon as our first harvest comes in, without even telling them, they start to eat the salad again. They just taste that flavor, they know that it's better, and they want it. It's no longer a struggle. So if you have kids who struggle to eat vegetables, you might want to just switch to our vegetables, and it might change everything. Kids know these things instinctively, and they can tell when food is good and when it's not. Unfortunately, many of us adults have lost that naive or intuitive childlike awareness. But yeah, we're excited to be moving to fresh food that tastes so much better and is so much better for our bodies. And we are very thankful that you guys have been supporting us so that we can do this work of tending the ground and tending to the plants and the animals and bringing balance and life to the soil, and then delivering that life and balance to you and to give health to your bodies and help you guys thrive. It's a privilege to do this kind of work, to be engaged in a process that brings so much health and joy, and we just hope that you guys are gathering around tables with people you love, sharing food, sharing your life with them, talking, conversing, and being together in the body, present and connected. That's our biggest dream, is to have people eating together around a table, and we can support that process in your homes by tending the land out here and bringing that harvest to you. And we're humbled and grateful to be able to do that work. So thank you for supporting us, and we look forward to those first harvests. And as I've said in a couple other videos, our CSA still has plenty of openings. Signups have been really slow this year, which is a particular kind of stress for us. So if you know anybody who might be interested, please spread the word. Let them know that we are here, and we are eager to do this work, and we are eager to deliver fresh, wholesome, nutritious food to you guys, and encourage them to sign up, because we need those members so that we can keep doing this work. So thank you for watching, and we will see you at the drop site in the next week or two, and be excited to hand that food over to you. Thank you for watching.